So, man, do I have stupid Andy story to tell you.
My name is Jeff.
First of all, we must set the scene. Now, I am in a unique position wherein I can now tell stories, right? My last job, I come to work there my first day, right? I clock in, I say hi to the lady at the desk, who's I later find out the manager of the production, and she says hi to me. Where do I clock in over here, clock in, go to the back warehouse, right? No problem. Go in the back of the warehouse. There's a dude sitting at his desk playing on his phone. I'm like, oh, fucking great. This is gonna be fantastic. I already love my coworkers, right? I'm 5 minutes in. He tells me kind of roughly what to go and do to get ready, for the day, whatever. And then I come back after I do that and see the boss. The boss is there, and he kind of explains to me what to do. I do it, right? Kind of went along that way for a long time. As I got to know more and more people, more and more about people there, I got more and more nervous. Then came the day that we lost one of our major customers. And that got me really nervous. Now, the place takes part in some unusual business practices, right? So, if a lead operator calls off, they just shut that machine down for the day. They just don't run any orders on that machine. They just send everybody home that's supposed to work that machine and go. And I'm like, what the fuck? Well, there are only so many leads that are allowed to run two machines at once. And I'm like, yeah, but fucking, what the fuck is the supervisor doing? Like, fucking figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, so our customers are pissed off at us because the shit's always late. And like when we lost a big one, I was like, oh dude, this fucking is a nightmare. Like 2 years in, and I was like, dude, I need to find a new job. But I wasn't motivated to, right? And then it came around time for the election, and I told them, I have an insomniac. They know this, right? I told them, I said, look, the election night is going to be ridiculous for me. I said, I'm going to be out of my mind. I'm going to be bouncing off the walls the whole night. I know ahead of time I'm not going to be able to sleep, right? Now, we get sick time because Donald Trump said that he was going to force companies to give people sick time, like for real sick time. Hey, I'm sick. Can I have sick time? Yeah. Cool. So, right, he was going to enforce sick time. Companies be like, fuckers, what's wrong with you? Why don't you already do this shit? So they set everything up for that, right? So when you get vacation time, you get vacation time and sick time. But because that shit didn't happen, it's just all vacation time, and you have to plan it ahead of time. So I was like, look, I'm telling you a month ahead of time, I ain't gonna be here on the 4th. And they were like, that's cool, right? I put in for it, even though I didn't have the time off. They didn't, give it to me, because I didn't have the time off. Fair enough. So I said, look, I understand what's going on, but you gotta understand what's going on too. I know I am not going to sleep that night. Like, when you go on vacation, right? Go to Disney World when you're a kid or whatever, right? And the night before you're going to Disney World, you're like, that's me at the election, man. Like, it matters to me. It makes a big fucking difference in my life. Like, it affects this. And this is what I would really like to do. You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, start pushing me, folks. Yeah, go out and tell everybody to like and subscribe and ring bells and whatever the fuck that's supposed to. Every time a bell rings, I get that little bit closer to fucking, I don't even know what. But, you know, I'm working for you guys for a living, I guess. You guys pay me and that's what I live off of, and I work for you. That would be fucking amazing. I would love that shit. Working towards that. Push me like crazy, because goddamn. Alright, so it is through you that I will rise. So where was I? Oh yeah. So all that goes through, right? And it was understood. You know, everybody's like, I get you. So we get to the election. I go off because I didn't fucking even get in bed until 5 o'clock. And I still sat there like this. My work starts at 7, so yeah. About 8 o'clock I was like, ugh. And couldn't do anything with myself. I got a second wind when I made the video. I kind of smacked the shit out of myself and woke up a little bit to just kind of do something. But after that I was just like, so yeah, I mean, I didn't fucking sleep. So the next day sucked, and then went to work the next day, right? As normal. So I go into work, and I just kind of decided enough is enough with a lot of shit, and I went into the HR and was kind of like, look, we need to have like a heart-to-heart, because I'm fucking freaking out. So I talked to her about a lot of problems. I had a problem with the first shift supervisor. You know, it was just like, he was extremely rude to me. What the thing that I did there was, I would return stock. That production would run the jobs, and then they would have shit left over. They would send it on over to me. I would count it, figure out how much it weighs, count it, and then I would package it all up nicely, put it on a skid, you know, stick it perfectly, and then I would do all the data entry shit, put all the fucking stock back into the system, and then I put the shit back on the shelf, right? So I'm doing that, and guy brings over a skid with fucking no bomb on it. Now, bomb is a bill of materials. B-O-M. So when that happens, I gotta fucking pallet jack up that skid, because it's a skid. Usually it's a box, but whatever. It's a whole fucking skid in this case. And I gotta take that shit all the way up front and be like, no bomb. And then I gotta walk all the fucking way back, and it's a stupid effort. So I took the tag off the skid that says what it is, and I just walked the tag over to the supervisor, because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to tell him, no bomb, I need a bomb. So, I go up to him, and he is standing with 2 of the leads, and they are watching a video on one of the leads' phone. So I'm like, well, perfect, he has time. So I go up to him, I hand him the tag, and I say, sir, yo, dude, I need a bomb for this. I don't know what's going on with this thing right here. And he's like, well, what you need to do is go over there and talk to that man right there. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, I have my own job to do. I'm like, here's the tag. I need a bomb. Give me a bomb. And, right? So I start walking back to my station, and he's like coming along next to me, and I'm like, oh Christ, what are we doing? And he goes, what are you gonna do if you don't get a bomb? And I'm like, well, then I'd have to go to my boss and find out what he wants me to do about this. And he goes, alright, then I'm gonna go tell your boss to just return it. And I'm like, motherfucker. So go talk to the boss. And the boss says, yeah, just return it. Because shithead tells him, sweet fucking lie, I don't know what this is, I don't know why they don't have a bomb on it, can he just return it? Yeah, you can just return it. Yeah, I can, but that's not supposed to be the process, but whatever, alright, fine. So I'm like wicked pissed just the way he talked to me. So I go over to boss and I'm like, dude, you and me need to have a chat. And he's like, all right. So he comes over and we talk and I tell him what happened. And he goes, man, that is not what he said to me. He said you threw the fucking tag at him and was like, find me a bomb. And I'm like, now it's known in the company that this dude is a fucking chronic liar. Whenever he gets caught doing dumb shit, he immediately begins to lie his way out of it. This works with most people. Doesn't work with the warehouse because they know he's a fucking liar. Every single one of them have caught him lying in front of them before. So he's like, oh, God damn it. So he gets, my boss is kind of pissed because now he's like, motherfucker. And he's like, well, what do you want to do, man? And he's like, do you want to go to HR? Is it that thing that you want to go to HR? And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, yeah. And I was wicked pissed. And my boss sat and talked to me for a while and calmed me down, But as he's calming me down, the way he's chosen to calm me down was by kind of like telling me how fucking dirty the company is. Like, he's like, they give bonuses to production for, attendance, meeting goals, stuff like that. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, we don't get that? And he's like, no, we don't get that. And, like, he's telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. So, like, he calmed me down because now I'm just like, I can't believe I have to find a new job already. Like, this sucks. I was going to give him at least a couple more years. So I'm like, fuck. So I go in to talk to HR to see if I can fucking, explain to them what happened with Shithead and kind of delve into what in the fuck, right? Not the best idea in the world. It automatically makes me a problem employee. These sorts of things. So, but hey, fuck them, man. Like, that's some bullshit. There's 3 different ways that people are treated around there, depending on what department you work in and what clique you're a part of. So, I'm fucking tired of that horse shit. Like, are we here to fuck around or are we here to make money? Because we're losing customers and, like, that's big. So, that puts us all out of work all of a sudden. So, go in and I talk to HR. I go out of HR wanting to fucking shoot myself. Because it was just so pitifully fucking sad. I literally looked at the poor girl. She had only been there like a year. And she was brand new to being an HR person. She learned some lessons from me, I gotta tell you. I looked at her at one point and I said, they're giving perks and stuff that we're being denied. I'm like, she says, well, you guys have a different pay bracket than they do. And I'm like, so what? I'm like, so you give them perks to equal it out? Why? Like, either fuck the perks for everybody and pay them more, give the perk possibility at least to everybody else. Because it's a thing that you earn. It's not even something that's really just given to you. It's like for time, if you come to work every day. Granted, I don't, so I wouldn't get any of it anyways, but nevertheless, like, I don't even have a fucking chance. So, I was pissed. And, I look at her at one point and I go, I'm like, I work at a very high level. I'm constantly working. Getting things done. I work above and beyond. What is my encouragement to continue to work above and beyond? And she goes, well, you get a review and a raise every year. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, I get ya. But, like, other people are getting more than that. And that too. So, I was very fucking annoyed, and I asked her what my fucking encouragement is to work at a high level, and she stared at her desk for like 10 seconds before I was like, man, what you've got to be kidding me. You can't even answer. I'm like, you can't even come up with a reasonable lie to tell me as to why I should continue to work here. And she's like, and I'm like, anything? Well, and I'm just like, oh my God. So I made a kerfuffle about stuff. I went in for my my follow-up on my thing, and I had found out more things that were going on, and I was more upset about that shit. And dude, so then next week, they call me into the office, and they're like, "We feel that you're taking advantage of your FMLA because, you know, you took off for the election. Like, streaming and having fun and hanging out with people isn't a good enough reason to say that you didn't sleep." And I'm like, I talked about this with all you guys. And they're like, "Yeah, well, it's just the way we feel now." And I'm like, okay. So I took that shit as a threat. We're gonna fuck with your FMLA if, keep making problems. So I don't deal well with threats. So I made a decision. I'll put my 2-week notice in, and I'll work it out as soon as I start doing interviews with other companies. I adjusted my resume, plastered it all over the place, got a bunch of callbacks. Then I got an interview, like the same day, or like the next day after I applied to a bunch of places. And I was like, oh shit. So I got an interview, called them up, put them at 2 weeks. Because I'm like, we get interviews now. 2 weeks away, probably, roundabout, right? And I decided, as soon as someplace hired me, I was gone, right? They get a week or week and a half maybe out of me, maybe if they get the full 2 weeks, and then I get a couple of vacation days, and then I go to work, That was the plan.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
I had a plan.
They're schemers.
I'm a schemer.
I just do things.
Right? I had a plan.
I'm an agent of chaos.
My plan fell apart the about 10 minutes after I walked in the door for the interview, because the guy's like, "We would like for you to start today." And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, well, I ain't doing anything the rest of the day, so sure, I'll come in. Come in at 4, he says. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go home, and I'm like, well, I'm hired. And it seemed like a fine enough job. Company was growing. They had just moved into the building, so there was a lot of machinery and shit all over the place and stuff like that. And the building wasn't really. I'll get into it. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm hired. That's awesome. I got a new job. Fuck the old place, right? So I called them up and I said, I'll be in tomorrow to turn in all my shit. And they're like, okay. So I'm like, meh. So I went to work yesterday. I showed up at 4. Told me, go ahead and have a seat. Be right with you. Sat around until 5 o'clock when more people showed up. And I'm thinking, why the fuck was I here? 4. So more people show up. And I kind of got tired at a point and was like, look, is there anything you need me to do? And the guy's like, yeah, go in the back there and break down boxes. And I went exactly to where he pointed to all of the empty boxes, and I found a skid that was there. And I put the skid down and broke down all the boxes on the skid, all nice and neat and stacked and whatnot. And yeah, that was not what they wanted me to do. Apparently, it was those boxes over there, and I'm like, oh. And they're like, yeah, we don't stack them like this. We need them made up. And I'm like, okay, like that. Not what the dude told me, but all right. And he's like, that's fine, whatever. We can just pull off this guy. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So, yeah, already it's interesting. So we wait for more people to get there. More people get there. And then we start building boxes. I'm like, all right. And I'm beginning to kind of get the idea of what's going on as it's kind of just unfolding, and I'm just kind of doing what, monkey see, monkey do. I'm doing what everybody else is doing. And so we get everything all set up, And they're like, all right. And then they start pulling around these giant fucking boxes that have these huge bags of packages, like UPS, FedEx, Amazon packages, shit like that. Like, it's just all these packages. And, they're all labeled as to what area that they go to. And the guy had gone around after we set everything up, and he took a Sharpie marker and wrote on all the boxes where they are all supposed to go. And so our job is to take a bag out, look at where it's supposed to go, and then put it in the box that has the same name. That was as challenging as this job was going to be for me. And I was like, oh my God, alright. I'm like, that's some mindless shit. I'm like, I don't mind doing mindless shit. I really don't, because I can just go into my own head, turn on autopilot, and just fucking do the job, especially with that. I mean, I have to be able to read the name of a city in Ohio. And then I have to be able to read that same name on a box. And then I have to place the bag inside of the box. Not tough. A little bit below my skill set, but nevertheless, whatever. I'm like, it's cool, It's certainly fucking easy. So, we split all this stuff up, and then we kind of bring trucks around, unload trucks, load trucks, and then that happens for a while. Now, the building is not, in my belief, appropriate for doing what we're doing. We have skids with giant 8-foot tall boxes on them, and we're putting 50-pound sacks, a couple dozen 50-pound sacks into these fucking boxes. So, shit's getting heavy. And all we have is pallet jacks, which, whatever. I've used pallet jacks everywhere I've ever been for forever. So, pallet jacks, whatever. So, we're using pallet jacks to run these giant boxes on skids up a 45-degree incline fucking trailer, and then we gotta stop them in there, and that's bad enough, but we're also pulling them out of trailers, and I'm seeing dudes run down the fucking trailer like it's a ramp and they're doing a fucking stunt jump, and I'm like, oh my God. And one box fell almost on a dude. And I'm like, oh my God, somebody's gonna fucking kill themselves. There was this one kid that every time he would try to push a box up into the he would, because it was the first job where he's ever used a pallet jack. I had to show one of our new hires how to use a pallet jack. That was interesting to watch him fucking run up there, because I'm like, oh my God. But and I'm like, somebody's gonna fucking get killed. So again, immediately I start getting nervous, and I'm like, holy shit, I might have to look for a new fucking job. And so we get that, everything's all done. And they're like, we're waiting on the truck to show up. I'm like, all right, what do we do? He's like, well, we're all set up, because we set everything up. We made more boxes and stuff. We're all set up, so just hang out. And I'm like, hang out? How long do you think it's going to be? And he's like, an hour or so. And I'm like, all right. I'm not a union worker. I've never, been told to just sit around and hang out for an hour. You know what I mean? So I'm like, all right, cool. So I sit and talk to you guys for an hour. And I'm like, this is fucking nutty. So truck comes. Awesome. We unload the trailer. And that was, when it got up to the last few boxes, I'm like, dude, I'm going to do this because I'm doing this infinitely safer than everybody else is. So, oh my God. I'm just like, this is so bad. So we do that. We unload the trailer. We load the trailer with other shit. And then we split all that stuff up. Now, that truck is supposed to drive from where we're at 2 hours south. And then pick stuff, unload, pick more stuff up, and then drive back up to us. So I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. That's a 6-hour round trip. And I'm looking at the clock, and it's 9. And I'm like, so 3 in the morning? Okay. And So we, I'm like, that's pretty, cool. It took us 4 or 5 hours to do the other stuff, and they're like, oh, dude, it ain't gonna take us that much time to do this stuff. This stuff's real easy. And I'm like, okay. So we bust that shit out in like 2 hours, set up again, and they're like, all right, it's like 1 in the morning, and they're like, all right, we're gonna wait for the truck, and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? Like, what can I do? And he's like, whatever you want, man. We're just down. Consider it a break. And I'm like, how long do you think it's gonna be? And he's like, well, it's 6 hours from when you left, so 2, 3 o'clock, something like that. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so like 2 hours? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, well, you can go sleep in your car if you want. And I'm like, am I getting paid for all this? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So I go sit in the car and I'm listening to Fox, talking to you guys, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, this kind of shit makes me extremely nervous. That's a company pissing away a lot of fucking money to have all these fucking dudes just sitting around. And we're all just sitting around sleeping and shit. I'm like, oh my god, and this is so dangerous and disorganized. I'm just like, oh, this really makes me nervous, man. I'm like, this is not good. And so I'm kind of laughing about it because I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. I don't even know what to make of this shit, but fuck it, man. And we get all this shit together, and I got home around 5:30 in the morning. I went into work at 4 p.m. I got home 5 a.m. And I'm like, dude, a 13-hour day where I really only worked maybe 8, 9 hours, but I was just there for 4 or 5 hours, just there, just to be there, just to fucking sit around and be there. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. So I have an interview for tomorrow at 11 o'clock with another company. And then I have an interview Wednesday with another company. So I'm like, I do this to myself all the time. I always fucking do this dumb shit. Whenever I want to leave a place, it's because I really fucking want to go. Like, it's gotten to a point with me where I'm like, I cannot fucking take working under whatever these conditions are. So I'm like, as soon as I find a new job, I'll work out the 2 weeks, but man, I'm fucking gone. Like, don't ever expect to see my ass again. And if it gets really fucking contentious, where they're like essentially warning me, we're looking at fucking shit, I'm like, okay, I'm out, and I'm just like, look, obviously you don't want me here, obviously I don't want to be here anymore, so, and I find a new job, and I'm like, done, because that's what I do. As soon as the first place is like, yeah, you're hired, I'm like, fuck yeah, no matter what it looks like, no matter how fucking shitty it looks, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I get really excited, really into it, and then I went there, and I'm like, oh my god, somebody's gonna get killed, and I'm gonna have to watch it. Like, I ain't fucking, no, sorry, you guys gotta get your shit together. Like, that is fucking, So, yeah. Yay! Push me! Hello, my name is Andrew Thomas, and I want to work for you. Hold up, let me get my hat. Y'all are like, oh my god, he's bald, clean shaven, ah! This is the smoothest my face has been in 2 years. Like a baby's butt. Alright, so I have a fucking really crazy story. I went for my interview today, right? they sent me an email with the address and everything, and the time and all that, and a picture of the place so that I, you know, see it and go, oh, that's it, you know. And as I'm driving to go and do the interview, and as I'm getting there, like I pull out onto this street, which was very familiar. I'm like, I used to work kind of on this street. I'm like, this is the way I used to drive to work when I worked at this other place. So I'm like, oh, so that kind of, you know, got me thinking. And then I, you know, as I'm getting closer, I start to picture the, you know, in my head, the picture of the place. And then I'm like, holy shit. I think I remember applying here before. Like, I think 2 years ago, I interviewed at this place. And I think this was the place where the guy that was interviewing me was like, severely hostile and shit. Like, he was really hostile to me. Like, I said, you know, something about us grunts and stuff like that. We don't call our people grunts. And I'm like, oh. And he was like, just angry at me for some reason. I don't know if he just didn't want to fucking interview or what the hell was going on, but this dude was not in a fucking mood. And I'm like, oh shit, I think this is the same fucking place. And I get up to it and I go to pull in and I'm like, oh shit, this is the same fucking place. And I pull in and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, God, should I just go? Like, am I gonna have to fucking go through this shit again? So I went in there and I'm like, yeah, now there's a Christmas tree there, but there used to be a big thing, and oh, fuck me. So I go up and I'm like, I'm here for an interview. And they're like, oh, have a seat. And I'm like, okay. And I sit there and I'm waiting and waiting. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is fucking insane. I can't believe I forgot that I applied to this place, that this was a fucking place. Oh my God. So I'm sitting there waiting, right? And this is just a funny aside. I'm looking over and I'm watching this dude on one of those stand-up lawnmowers. And he's mowing the neighbor's lawn. And he like went to go and dump out his trap. And like he pulled up too far and one of the front wheels went off of the curb. So he empties the fucking trap, goes to put it all back on, and then he gets on the thing to try and back up. You can't back up because the front wheel is off the curb. And he gets off and he goes around and he looks at it and he bends down and tries to like pick it up. I mean, it's a stand-up mower. This isn't one of those fucking push mowers like you have at your parents' house. Or at your house, if you're an adult. I rent, so not an adult. So he's trying to pick this fucking thing up, and this, you know, he's a tall, skinny dude, so I'm like, that ain't fucking happening. And it wasn't happening, and he's like walking around the thing, and like he walks around, and he gets up on it and tries, and it doesn't work, and he tries to pick it up again, it doesn't work, and like he goes, I'm just sitting there watching all this shit, silent movie style, like. And he goes to walk away, then turns around and comes back and walks around it again and pulls some levers, does some stuff, and then goes and walks off, right? So he's gone about 20 seconds. And then this lady rolls up on her big, huge-ass sit-down mower. She pulls up, sees what's going on, she stops, puts the thing in park, gets off, walks around the front of the thing, walks up onto the back of it, stands up on it, turns the fucking thing on, and like drives the fucking thing backwards, and it kind of bumps, and then she goes forward a little bit, and then bumps it right fucking up onto the thing. Bam! Back on the line. So she gets off, puts the thing in park, turns it off, and everything gets back on her sit-down mower, goes fucking after the dude. Hey, your shit's ready. Like, so I'm sitting there watching all this shit as I'm waiting to interview at the place where the dude was severely hostile to me. And I'm like, if a big tall guy comes walking out of that door, I'm gonna be like, oh fuck. But it wasn't. It was a completely other dude. Opens the door. Hey, come in, sat down, had a good talk. The last time I interviewed, there was a head on the wall from the guy, the webcam from whatever state he's in, and you know he was there again. Same dude. That guy was the same guy. He didn't recognize me, so I'm kind of like, oh, okay. But, oh my God. So, I don't fucking know. I think I interviewed pretty well. They said they'll let me know at the latest by next Friday. So, yay. But oh my god, like as I rolled into the place and I'm like, oh my god, this is the same fucking place where that dude was like a dick. So, we'll see. Apparently he's gone. I gotta say, not surprising. But yeah. I swear to God, my fucking life.